ऑल राइट, वेलकम एवरीवन। एक और एपिसोड ऑफ मार्केट रैप। छोटा सा वीक था हमारा, लेकिन काफी दमदार वीक था, छोटा होते हुए भी सर। बहुत ऊपर बहुत नीचे। इनफैक्ट कल की जो लास्ट मार्केट डे की क्लोजिंग आई थी, दैट वाज आल्सो प्रीटी इंटरेस्टिंग। कि जाते 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 एंड देन सडन लास्ट हाफ एन आवर में जज्बात बदल गए, सब कुछ ही बदल गया। सो व्हाट हैपेंड सर, व्हाट हैपेंड दिस वीक?
Good afternoon, Vishu. I think what has happened is that Nifty was taking a breather for past 2 weeks, and typically we have seen that a bit of a tax harvesting also sort of happens towards the end of March, and so people sort of book losses to adjust for positions, respective positions. And towards the end of the March, typically people sort of rebuy. Which is what we have seen in Nifty also. So, for example, if you look at mid caps and small caps, which have seen the maximum brunt of selling, they have gained about 1.5%. Or Nifty also has gained pretty good. So, after 2 weeks of breather, the Nifty has managed to sort of sustain the hurdle of 22,200 kind of a level. And from here on, I think things are looking a lot more interesting if we go by historical data. So, for example, in the month of April, typically in an election year, you get 3-4% kind of a moves in the market. And from lower levels, you get 14-15 kind of a move on the market. So, largely our target for, say, near-term target of 22,700 for this month, or year-end target of 25,000 largely remains intact. And I think good part is that you're seeing participation happening from Bank Nifty, because see, if you look at half of the indexes yet not contributing, so which is the IT and the Bank Nifty. But in Bank Nifty, at least some heavyweights have started to sort of turn positive, which is very good. Then I think global cues have been fine. Like I said, election year, April has been good. The FI inflows have been quite good. So after 2 months of hiatus, so there we have seen a strong inflows in this month. So that way, I think overall setup is good for the market. I think with support of 21,900, we are headed towards making new highs.
राइट, ऑसम। दैट्स दैट, आई एम वेरी ग्लैड टू हियर दैट्स मेरा पोर्टफोलियो बचा रहेगा। सर, नेक्स्ट अप आई थिंक गवर्नमेंट के बोरोइंग का कैलेंडर आया है, एंड अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल आर क्यूरियस कि व्हाट विल बी द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ दिस ऑन अस एज रिटेलर्स और ऑन इन आवर स्टॉक मार्केट इन जनरल।
So to give a bigger perspective, Vishu, I think what one needs to see is that the RBI has hiked rates by 250 pips, right? Largely because the inflation had sort of gone up. Now, from there on, obviously, the yields have also sort of gone up, and the interest rates in the economy has also gone up. Now, overall, if you look at, there are a couple of things to sort of look at. One, the government had, because they wanted to sort of slow down the economy a bit, so they have kept even the liquidity tighter also. So, liquidity deficit used to be 1.5 lakh crore in December. Now it has come down to about 40,000 odd crores. Then I think on top of it, if the government is borrowing less, that puts lesser pressure on the yields. So, for example, in this quarter, we have seen a 14 bips kind of a decline in the yields. Now, structurally, what is expected to happen is that this 250 bips kind of a rate hike which RBI has taken, it has to sort of unwind that, and that will happen in bits and pieces, and it will get reflected in the overall yields also. And it has implications. So, for example, if a 50 bips kind of a yield declines, the profit for SBI sort of is expected to inch up by 10%. Obviously, it has a big impact. Besides that, lower interest rates, the overall economy does very well. The market multiples go up, the credit growth sort of inches up. So good part in this borrowing is that in an election year, one, the government is already sort of borrowing less for the full year, and in the first half, you are borrowing nearly about 1.5 lakh crore lesser. So which will put lesser pressure on yields, and what it also does is that, like I said, 14 bips kind of a decline in yield we have already seen in this quarter. So obviously PSU banks, some of them will witness treasury gains. Numbers will work through. But all in all, it's a very positive sign in terms of we are headed towards lower interest rates.
राइट, परफेक्ट सर। सो माय नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज अबाउट समथिंग जो कि आई थिंक स्टोन एजेस में भी हमें इम्पैक्ट करता था, और आज हम लोग मतलब कलयुग में बैठे हैं, लेट्स से, एंड स्टिल इम्पैक्ट करता है, विच इज द मॉनसून। आई थिंक द न्यूज इज कम कि एल नीनो की अच्छी वाली सिस्टर ला नीना इज कमिंग दिस ईयर, तो मॉनसून अच्छा होने वाला है. कैन यू टेल अस कि विच सेक्टर्स स्पेसिफिकली वुड बी हैप्पी विद दिस, एंड ओवरऑल क्या अदर इम्पैक्ट्स कैन बी एक्सपेक्ट फ्रॉम दिस?
देखिए, आई थिंक विशु, एक एक चीज तुमको माननी पड़ेगी कि इंडिया पे भगवान भी मेहरबान है. तो अगर पिछले 4 साल से अगर आप देखें तो मानसून नॉर्मल था. एक लास्ट ईयर ही था जहां पे थोड़ा एक डेफिशिएंट था. एंड अभी हालांकि जो एक मेजर फोरकास्ट है वो मिड ऑफ अप्रैल में आएगा, बट वॉट एवर फोरकास्ट जो आ रहे हैं वो इस बार है कि इस बार आपको सफिशिएंट रेनफॉल मिलने वाली है. तो दैट वे आई थिंक इट्स एक्सट्रीमली इम्पोर्टेंट, बिकॉज आपका काफी बड़ा जो सेगमेंट है इकोनॉमी का वो स्पेशली द रूरल साइड इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन रेन्स. Now, coming to sectors, you have sectors like auto, especially two-wheelers, some bit of a four-wheeler, plus even tractors. Then FMCG and consumer durables होते हैं. FMCG companies का typically 40% sales जो होता है रूल से derive होता है. आई थिंक एक जो स्टॉक हमको रिलेटिवली पसंद आता है वो M&M है, बिकॉज M&M के पास में करीब 40% मार्केट शेयर है ऑन ट्रैक्टर्स. एंड ट्रैक्टर्स का अगर आप देखें हाई बेस पे चल रहा था तो ट्रैक्टर्स में अभी ग्रोथ नहीं आ रही. बट अगर मॉनसून अच्छा आता है तो देन डेफिनेटली वी विल एक्सपेक्ट कि M&M एज अ कंपनी शुड डू वेल. उनका एसयूवी पोर्टफोलियो भी ऑलरेडी अच्छा कर रहा है. आई थिंक एक स्टॉक है जो हमको ओवरऑल पसंद है. बट टिपिकली इट इज वेरी गुड न्यूज फॉर द एंटायर एफएमसीजी एज अ पैक, बिकॉज एफएमसीजी कंपनीज हैव बीन कंप्लेनिंग कि भाई रूरल डिमांड थोड़ी स्लो है. And same is the case with even consumer durable companies. So all in all, it is very good news for the entire FMCG plus consumer durable plus autos. And one more interesting thing is that if your inflation is lower because of good monsoon, because you look at in your inflation basket, 40-45% is food. Obviously, it's dependent or impacted by monsoon. So what it means is that you are headed for even a softer print of inflation, which again, like I said, a lower interest rate is beneficial from multiple aspects. So I think monsoon is also is a step in that direction. So all stars are aligning for India to sort of do that.
एब्सोल्युटली सर, बरगो से बरसों रे मेघा मेघा बरसों. सर माय नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज, मतलब अभी परसों ही मेरी मॉम बोल रही थी कि यार तुम स्टॉक मार्केट में लगाते रहते हो, बट एक्चुअली हमारे जमाने में सब एफडी बनाते थे और घर खरीदते थे. स्पीकिंग ऑफ दैट, आई थिंक रियलिटी इंडेक्स हमारे स्टॉक मार्केट में नई कुछ रिपोर्ट्स हैं कि अभी भी उनकी बात भी पूरी तरीके से गलत नहीं है. वो जो डिमांड है वो अभी भी सस्टेन कर रही है. एंड बट हमारे मार्केट में भी कई सारे कंपनीज हैं इस सेक्टर में जो कि लोग उसका फायदा उस स्टॉक मार्केट के थ्रू भी उठा रहे हैं. तो कैन यू टेल अस अ लिटिल बिट अबाउट दैट सर, रियलिटी में क्या चल रहा है हम लोगों का?
So basically, एक तो एक Nifty reality index, if you look at, has given some 60% kind of a return in the last 6 months. So obviously, it is one of the best performing index. And this is happening after a long period of time. So there was a period of time when 10 years the real estate as a sector did not do well. But like I said, stars are aligning. So what is happening in real estate is that one last quarter, if you look at, which is Jan to March, the sales are up about 14% for top 7 cities. And then on the supply side, the supply has only gone up by 1%, which means that the price robustness for real estate projects is going to be there. And real estate, mind you, is a very important sector because this is one sector which is the biggest employer of unskilled labor. And if real estate sector does well, then it is extremely positive. And we have been highlighting earlier also that 2003 to 2007, two things were common. The real estate sector was doing well at that point of time, and the capex was happening. And I think something similar we are seeing this time also. And real estate cycle is usually a multi-year cycle, so it is expected to last for 3-4 years or even more. And so not only we are positive on some of the listed real estate companies like say Brigade, which is one of the best companies in Bangalore, or Mahindra Life, which has got a good parentage and is looking to sort of do 5x kind of a sales value in the next 4-5 years. We are even bullish on the entire top lower value chain. So, for example, the entire home building segment, be it plies, be it even tiles. So, all the categories are expected to sort of benefit from this. So, real estate doing well is very good news for from an economic perspective, and definitely even from a stock market perspective as well.
राइट, ऑसम ऑसम सर। सर आई थिंक लास्ट टाइम भी हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया था कि जापान में बहुत सारी चीजें हो रही हैं, देयर स्टॉक मार्केट हिट मतलब अनदर हाई आफ्टर लाइक सो मेनी इयर्स, देन वी सॉ कि उन लोगों के इन्फ्लेशन में भी पॉलिसी में भी चेंज थे। आई थिंक दिस वीक वी हैव सम न्यूज ऑन येन एज वेल डूइंग अ लॉट ऑफ मूव्स। तो इससे इंडियन मार्केट्स में आर देयर एनी इज व्हाट वुड बी द इम्पैक्ट इन द इंडियन मार्केट स्पेसिफिकली ऑफ दिस एक्टिविटी?
So yes, Japanese markets are stock markets are doing phenomenally well because one, they are depreciating their currency, then they have high rates. So from negative interest rates, they are moving into sort of neutral rates. And since Japan is a country which does a lot of exports, so obviously depreciating currency does help. But now, when we sort of come to Indian context, I think the only company which is in the top of the mind for any person from Japan is Maruti. So Maruti obviously is one of the biggest companies in India. Now, historically, we've seen that overall Maruti's exposure to yen is somewhere about 8 odd percent because they do import some parts. And whenever we have seen the currency sort of depreciating, it has given a 50 bips kind of a positive impact on the EBITDA margins. So I'll not be surprised if something similar happens even this time also because currency has sort of depreciated. And you would notice also that Maruti has been sort of making new highs recently. This is one stock which is available at attractive multiples of 24 times. But somewhere down the line, we feel that on the portfolio side, they have not been doing so well. But yes, price performance is very much expected because volume growth has been good. So Maruti is one company which should stand out as a big beneficiary of yen decline.
Right. Right. Sir, I think another big news this week was NBFCs को कुछ relaxations मिला है in terms of alternate investment funds. तो उसका क्या impact हो सकता है? Could we understand that, please?
सो एक तो ये था कि जब आरबीआई ये मूव लेके आया था कि आरबीआई का बेसिकली पर्सपेक्टिव ये था कि कोई राउंड ट्रिपिंग या एवरग्रीनिंग ऑफ लोन ना हो बिकॉज कहीं ना कहीं अगर बैंक अपने एआई फंड में पैसा डालते हैं और वो उस कंपनी में पैसा लगाते हैं जहां से बैंक का कोई रिलेशनशिप है तो वो कहीं ना कहीं एक एवरग्रीनिंग वाला जोन में आप जा सकते हो। तो जो एक प्रोविजन करना था वो करीब 100% प्रोविजन करना था तो उसकी वजह से काफी सारे कंपनीज पे इम्पैक्ट थे स्पेशली बैंक्स पे थे प्लस लेकिन जो सबसे ज्यादा इम्पैक्टेड थे वो पिरामल एंटरप्राइज एंड आईएफएल फाइनेंस थे। नाउ तो सबसे बड़े बेनिफिशियरी भी होंगे तो पिरामल और आईएफएल होंगे बट सैडली वी डोंट कवर बोथ दी स्टॉक्स बट बैंक के लिए एक थोड़ा पॉजिटिव रब ऑफ होना चाहिए बिकॉज बैंक्स का भी थोड़ा बहुत एक्सपोजर था। तो एक अच्छी चीज ये हुई कि आरबीआई ने पूरा जो अमाउंट है उसी का ही आपको प्रोविजन करना है rather than sort of providing for 100% exposure. So that way it's a sort of a big relief. And I think good part is that RBI is very proactive across segments. So that way they are preventing any kind of a major dent going forward in the balance sheets of any of the NBFCs or banks.
Right. Right. सर नेक्स्ट एनबीएफसी से थोड़ा ही उनके कजन्स इंश्योरेंस में भी आई थिंक एक फाइनल वर्डिक्ट आ गई है आईआरडीए की अराउंड वैल्यू नॉर्म्स इन फेवर ऑफ लाइफ इंश्योरेंस। तो उसमें भी सर क्या हुआ एंड हाउ वुड दैट इम्पैक्ट द मार्केट?
So एक तो ये insurance companies were looked up as one sector which was expected to sort of do very well because see, you look at the insurance penetration in India is very low across be it general, be it life. Now, so this sector used to grow very well. So FY23, the growth was 18%, and this year the growth is nearly flat until the month of Feb. बिकॉज एक तो आपका मार्च में लास्ट ईयर 5 लाख के ऊपर अगर आप पॉलिसी पे का पेमेंट हो रहा है तो देन ऑब्वियसली दैट वाज गेटिंग टैक्स्ड। देन द अदर इशू वाज that IRDA was expecting a higher surrender value. So obviously that will change the dynamics of the product and the profitability of companies. So that was a sort of a big anxiety moment for most of the companies, and that has been sort of put to rest. So overall expectation is that all these companies will now start delivering a positive growth, unlike we've seen a nearly no growth last year. So I think that's a sort of a big relief. And mind you, all these are big companies, part of bigger portfolios. So if they start sort of doing well, I think it is definitely positive. Like we've been saying, BFSI as a segment has not been contributing much to the Nifty movement, but with these kind of relaxations coming up, I think the overall momentum toward the entire BFSI as a space is turning positive.
Right, right. Perfect, sir. सर नेक्स्ट अब इंश्योरेंस की बात चल रही है तो कम्स द मेडिसिन फार्मा कंपनीज पे सर मेरा भी वेट कुछ बढ़ा था रिसेंटली मेरे को सुनने में आया कि दे विल बी एबल टू हेल्प मी विद दैट तो व्हाट इज दैट ऑल अबाउट सर
So pharma में देखिए, a lot of interesting things are happening. One, I think one should understand that be it India, it is expected about 30, 40 crore people are obese. Globally, it is expected that half of the population is obese. Now, what has happened is that there was medication for diabetes and especially from two companies, which is your Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly. Now, as a side effect, what was observed was that it reduced the weight of the patients also. And now people have discovered the new usage of this drug. Now, this drug is going to sort of expire in 2026. And that is going to open the sort of Pandora's box for this drug to be sort of sold across multiple markets. And since it's a big market across, it is expected that this will be the biggest drug which will get sold with a turnover of $80 billion. So this is going to be sort of very massive from 2026 onwards. And now for that, for to tap that opportunity, obviously, what is expected is that companies have started sort of building up capability. So you have companies like Sun, Torrent, DRL, which are sort of doing clinical trials for this. Then you have Divi's, which is going to supply APIs for Kakinada plant for this. Now, the overall expectation is that this is $80 billion kind of a drug. Typically, the growth rate for next few years is going to be in excess of 40%. So any drug which is going to grow at such a size and at such a pace will obviously attract players, and it has the capability to sort of lift the fortunes of the industry. So, which is why I think it's a very interesting development, and this is going to get bigger because everybody wants to be thin and fit, and this drug is a sort of a shot in the arm for whoever is looking to sort of lose weight.
Right. Awesome. Sir, हम लोग before I get to my final question of the day, which of course has to be your hidden gem, there are हम लोग live हैं and there are 2-3 queries, so I'd like to take them up, whichever we
Sure,
can go through.
sure.
Pehla question was Jose Fernandez sir ka, which we have I think covered. He wanted to know will the market sustain or will it go down from here on, to which we discussed in the very beginning. Second, sir, Abdul sir ka question was when will be the rebalance of stocks in the master of streets rising capex? Is there any time period? Okay, I am not sure ki second part kya hai.
So basically, what we do is that we have multiple portfolios. One of the portfolios is catering to the opportunity on the capex side. And that portfolio has been sort of doing well. So I think we keep on reviewing the portfolio, but I think just for the sake of changing or churning, we don't really churn. So as long as we feel that the stock which we have put off continues to sort of offer potential upside, we will sort of maintain that. In case if there is a change, obviously that will get communicated. So that is what I would say.
Right. Awesome. Glad to know. मैं भी अब देखता हूँ and I'll put my money into it maybe. Next, sir, I think Neerja Saraswati ने पूछा है around solar industries India. I think we had a report recently on it as well. So if you can cover some of that.
So I think one solar industries, if you look at, is one of the stocks which has seen a phenomenal run. So this company benefits from two things. One, on the defense side, that business is sort of shaping up very well. And then obviously the other business caters to the overall mining production, especially the coal. Because when you are sort of producing more coal, you need to sort of do a lot more blasting, and for that you require. So this company is sort of benefiting. So both the engines for this company is doing well. I mean, if you look at the coal production in India has touched a new high, and next few years it is going to remain quite good. So I think this company is going to benefit from both this. So if you're holding or if you're having that stock, keep that stock in your portfolio. That is what I would say.
Right. Awesome. Next up, sir, final question of the day. आपका hidden gem of the week.
So, Vishu, I think cement is one sector which is not doing so well, and I like to sort of recommend stocks when they are sort of down and when they are sort of not doing well, because that is when one should be looking at stock rather than sort of chasing stocks and their momentum. So, cement is one sector which you have been liking for some time now. In the election time, obviously the overall construction activity also sort of slows down a bit, but it picks up whenever this election sort of gets over, and which is why this stock I would recommend with a target. Ramco Cement is what I would recommend with a target price of 1,000. Now there are two, three things which are going to benefit. One, the company has got a capacity of 22 million tons. They are expanding their capacity to 26 million tons by 26, so which would mean that they'll deliver a volume growth of over 12 odd percent. And on the EBITDA front, most of the cement companies have witnessed erosion in EBITDA per ton, largely because the input prices had sort of gone up. Because this company made about 1,500 rupees per ton in FY21, and in cut to FY23, it got halved to nearly 794 or 800 rupees per ton. But our sense is that even if it does not go to previous peaks, the overall EBITDA per ton should inch up towards 1,000 or closer to 1,000. And that should sort of lift their EBITDA growth to good double digits or profit growth by nearly 30 odd percent. And this stock is trading at 10 times EV by EBITDA or 10 and a half times EV by EBITDA. Typically, bigger names trade at 17, 18 times, even more than that. So there is a ample gap between this company and the players. And good part is that in this recent correction of mid caps and small caps, this stock also has witnessed a good amount of correction. So I think this correction is a good opportunity to buy a quality stock like Ramco Cement with a target price of 1,000.
Awesome. This was great, sir. Thank you so much for taking out time for us and doing this weekly wrap. We'll be back next week, and please help us with the same.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to never miss an update from ICICI Direct.